The night began like any other between me and Aisha, two best friends escaping our busy lives at our favorite rooftop cafe, where the monsoon breeze wrapped around us and the city lights shimmered like secrets waiting to be told. I had already downed 2 shots before she even arrived, her hair slightly messy, cheeks flushed from rushing, looking so effortlessly beautiful that my heart tripped over itself in a way I pretended not to notice. "Minahil, you're halfway gone," she laughed as she slid into the seat across from me, and I shrugged dramatically, insisting I only drank because she made me wait. She rolled her eyes but smiled that soft, lopsided smile that always melted something inside me, and somehow, neither of us realized how quickly the night was shifting, how easily laughter turned to warmth, warmth to closeness, and closeness to a dangerous, unspoken truth simmering between us. We shared more drinks, talked about nothing and everything, and somewhere between my tipsy giggles and her quiet, lingering glances, I felt the world blur into a gentle haze. At one point, I found myself leaning forward, chin resting on my hand, staring at her a little too long, a little too openly. "You know what's stupid?" I mumbled, the alcohol loosening every filter I'd spent years building. She groaned dramatically, already bracing herself for whatever nonsense I was about to spill, but she was smiling. God, she was always smiling at me, and it felt suddenly unfair how easy she made everything look. "It's stupid," I said again, "that the person I want the most is the one I can't have." Her expression shifted in a heartbeat, curiosity, confusion, hope, but I was too far gone to stop myself. When she asked who I meant, the truth tumbled out of my mouth without hesitation, without logic, without protection. "You," I whispered. And in the second before the world tilted into darkness, I saw her breath catch like the beginning of something I wasn't ready to understand, her lips parting to speak. But I passed out before I could hear a single word she tried to say. Waking up felt like dragging myself out of a grave I'd accidentally dug with my own mouth. My head throbbed, my throat burned, and every regret I'd ever had in life seemed to be sitting on my chest, none heavier than the memory of whispering you to the one person I should have never confessed to. I groaned and buried my face in my pillow, only to freeze when I heard a quiet, familiar exhale from beside my bed. "Aisha." She sat there scrolling through her phone, looking unfairly composed for someone who had witnessed my self-destruction firsthand, her messy bun and soft t-shirt making her look painfully at home in my room. "Oh good, you're alive," she said without looking up, and I wished I wasn't. She finally lifted her gaze, and the air between us tightened, thick with the weight of everything unsaid. "How bad was it?" I croaked, already terrified of the answer. She didn't reply immediately, a silence far more dangerous than words, until she gently reminded me of the one thing I prayed was only a dream. "You confessed to me." My entire soul shriveled. I tried to laugh it off, tried to blame the alcohol, tried to take it back before it could break anything precious between us, but she cut me off with a soft, steady "Don't do that." Her eyes held mine, dark and unflinchingly honest. "Don't pretend it meant nothing." My breath hitched, because she wasn't angry, she looked shaken, vulnerable, almost hurt. "Do you really think I can just forget it?" she asked quietly, and suddenly my heart was beating so loudly I was sure she could hear it. I whispered an apology, terrified she hated me, but she stared at me like the idea itself was unthinkable. She stood, restless, pacing my room as if trying to outrun her own thoughts, her voice trembling slightly when she finally said, "Minahil, maybe it didn't just shock you." For a long moment, her words hung between us, fragile and trembling, and I lay there watching her pace as if she was unraveling threads inside herself she never meant to touch. When she finally stopped, her eyes softened in a way I'd never seen before, wide, uncertain, but filled with something aching and real. "You're my best friend, Minahil," she whispered, as though admitting a secret she'd held for too long, and somewhere along the way, I convinced myself that wanting more was the one line I could never cross. My pulse stumbled. She sat beside me on the bed, close enough that her warmth brushed against my shoulder, sending a shiver through me. "But when you confessed," she continued, her voice breaking just slightly, "I didn't feel disgusted or shocked. I felt relieved. Like something inside me finally made sense." My breath caught, hope blooming so painfully it almost hurt. "Aisha," I murmured, "what are you trying to say?" She let out a shaky laugh, rubbing her palms against her jeans. I don't know what love is supposed to feel like, but when I look at you, I feel something I've spent years trying to ignore. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out and cupped my cheek, her thumb brushing my skin with a gentleness that made my heart clench. I need to know something, she whispered, leaning in just enough that I could feel her breath. Her lips hovered near mine, so close, so unbearably tender, before brushing lightly, a question disguised as a kiss. I froze, stunned not by the kiss itself but by how right it felt, how perfectly it fit into all the empty spaces inside me. She pulled back just a fraction, eyes searching mine. Did that feel wrong? She asked quietly. And in that split second, something inside me snapped free. I leaned in, kissing her properly this time, slow but desperate, soft but certain, pouring years of unspoken feelings into that single moment. The world fell away. The days that followed were a confusing blur of tenderness and hesitation, as if Aisha and I were tiptoeing across a fragile line neither of us had ever dared to approach before. We weren't quite lovers, not just friends anymore, caught somewhere beautifully uncertain in between. She started texting me more, not just memes or sarcastic banter, but soft, thoughtful things like "Did you sleep all right? I can't stop thinking about yesterday, and can I see you today?" Messages that made my stomach flutter in ways I could no longer pretend to ignore. Every time we met, she hovered close, unsure but wanting, like she was learning the shape of her feelings one cautious step at a time. The first day she reached for my hand in public, she instantly pulled back, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Sorry, I don't know if that's okay," she muttered, and my heart squeezed at how hard she was trying. One evening, she invited me over for a movie night, though we both knew it was an excuse just to exist near each other. We sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, laughing awkwardly, pretending to care about the film. But slowly, so slowly, she shifted closer until her knee brushed mine, then her shoulder leaned into me, and finally, her fingers slid tentatively into my hand like she was testing whether I'd stay. "Minahil," she whispered after a long moment, her voice small, almost shy. I hummed in response, afraid to break the spell. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" she asked. I smiled sadly, resting my head against hers. "Because losing you would have hurt more than loving you in silence." She exhaled, trembling with emotions she didn't yet know how to carry, then lifted her face to mine. "Can I kiss you again? Properly this time?" she whispered. I nodded before I even realized I was moving. And when she kissed me, slow, warm, searching, it felt like she wasn't just kissing me, she was choosing me. As the weeks passed, the sweetness between us deepened, but so did the fear beneath it, threading quietly through every touch, every glance, every half-finished sentence we didn't know how to complete. Loving each other, even softly, meant stepping into unfamiliar territory neither of us had been taught to navigate. Aisha's world was still wrapped in expectations, family, tradition, opinions heavy enough to crush her if she let them, and sometimes I could see that weight in the way her shoulders tensed whenever our fingers brushed in public, or how quickly she changed the subject when her phone lit up with a call from home. One night, after hours of silence between us that left me restless, she texted, "Can you come? Please." I arrived at her apartment to find her sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, eyes swollen from crying, and my heart cracked in an instant. She looked up at me like she was afraid I'd disappear if she blinked. "I'm scared," she whispered, voice trembling. I sat beside her and took her hand gently. "Of me?" I asked, even though the answer hurt to imagine. "No," she choked out, shaking her head. "Of wanting you so much. Of messing this up. Of people finding out. Of not knowing what this makes me. Of losing you." Her words were a storm, raw, frightened, honest, and I felt their weight settle deep inside me. I pulled her into my arms, her body melting into mine like she'd been waiting for someone to hold her together. "You're not losing me," I murmured against her hair. "I chose you. I'm choosing you still." She sobbed softly, clutching my shirt with trembling fingers, and it hit me then that her fear wasn't a sign of doubt, it was a sign of wanting something real. "Will you be patient with me?" she whispered, as if the question itself was fragile. I kissed her forehead, lingering. Always, I said. And lying there with her, our breaths sinking in the quiet, I realized love didn't have to be perfect to be real, it just had to be chosen. 3 months slipped by in a blur of quiet bravery and slow, steady unraveling, Aisha and I learning, day by day, what it meant to hold each other gently while the world outside remained loud and uncertain. Our relationship didn't announce itself with grand gestures or dramatic declarations, it grew in the hush of shared nights, in the way she squeezed my hand when she felt overwhelmed, in the soft glances we exchanged across crowded rooms where we pretended we were still just friends. But one evening, as we sat on her rooftop wrapped in a single blanket, the city below glowing like a million tiny confessions, she turned to me with a look that made my heart still. I told my sister about us, she whispered, almost afraid of the words she'd already spoken. My breath caught. You did? She nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. I was shaking the whole time. But she just hugged me. She said she's proud I'm choosing my own happiness. Emotion rose in my throat, thick and overwhelming. This wasn't just a step, it was a leap. She shifted closer, threading her fingers through mine with newfound certainty. Minahil, she murmured, I don't want to hide how I feel anymore. I don't want to pretend I don't think about you when I wake up or when I fall asleep. I want this, us, not halfway, not quietly. My chest tightened with a joy so deep it almost hurt. What do you feel? I asked softly, afraid of the answer and desperate for it at the same time. She looked at me, really looked, her eyes warm and steady. I feel safe with you. I feel seen. I feel, in love. The words broke inside me like sunlight. She leaned in and kissed me, slow, sure, certain, and the world shrank to the warmth of her lips and the softness of her breath. When she rested her forehead against mine, she whispered, no more running. No more fear. I choose you. And for the first time, without hesitation or doubt, I whispered back, I choose you too.